The music fades as you stretch your legs out along the warm stone edge of the courtyard, head tilted just enough to catch the last lavender streaks of dusk. The flutist finishes his piece with a long, breathy note that seems to dissolve into the rising stars, and then silence takes over, not awkward, but tender. The kind of silence that lives in the pauses between old friends. Around you, the spay-goers of Mohenjo-Daro begin slipping into the deeper rhythms of the night. You follow them not with steps, but with attention. You pass along the curve of a low wall and find yourself in what can only be described as the spay's backstage. This is where the magic is prepared, little clay furnaces still radiating warmth. Baskets of crushed minerals and herbal bundles stacked on reed mats, wooden tools that look suspiciously like early exfoliators. You chuckle at one that resembles a primitive loofah. Honestly, they probably figured out skincare before they figured out war. Nearby, a young girl is carefully measuring powders from different jars, ochre ash, maybe even crushed malachite into a flat dish. She adds water drop by drop, stirring with a stick until the paste gleams like river mud. She dips her fingers in, smears a line across her cheek, and then looks at you expectantly. You mimic her, dragging a cool stripe down your arm. It tingles pleasantly, a little gritty, as if Mohenjo-Daro just handed you its version of a mineral face mask with a side of exfoliating sass. Historians still debate whether these cosmetic rituals were purely for personal indulgence or linked to sacred rites. Given the prominence of water in the city's design and the repetitive patterns found in their art, some argue these spay treatments were preludes to prayer, purifying body and spirit in one go. Others think they were just very serious about self-care in the most ancient influencer way possible. A few feet away, someone is combing their hair using a carved ivory piece that must have cost more than a goat. You spot another person scrubbing their legs with a flat-edged tool, scooping off what you assume are layers of grimed dead skin or just the ghosts of long meetings. And in the corner, there's someone meticulously rubbing their feet with a paste that smells like neem and tamarind. The air back here carries the distinct scent of fermented things. You breathe it in, sour herbal complex, and realize it reminds you of those health spas that offer kombucha flights. Only this kombucha might have once lived in a goat bladder. You shudder and smile. In another nook of this backstage world, someone pours a bright yellow liquid, probably turmeric and oil, into small bowls lined in leaves. It catches the torchlight and glows. You sit cross-legged and they pass one to you. The person gestures apply to the hands, then the temples, then the feet. You obey. The effect is instant. Your palms tingle warmly. Your forehead pulses, but in a good way. And your feet feel like they've just been granted permission to forgive you for years of uncomfortable sandals. It's easy to forget in your spay-dazed state that this entire civilization lived over 4,000 years ago. Mohenjo-Daro, part of the vast Indus Valley civilization, had no Rosetta Stone, no Homeric epics, no deciphered texts to scream, "This is who we were." They wrote in tiny script on seals and tablets, but the language is still a mystery. Historians still argue whether the script even represents a spoken language, or if it was more symbolic, more accountancy than poetry, which means that all these rituals, the smearing, the soaking, the musical evenings, are interpreted through a very foggy window. But somehow their city planning was crystal clear. The whole spa complex was laid out with mathematical precision, symmetry, drainage, harmony. Someone cared deeply about alignment. You shift your weight and your hip bone presses into the floor tile, warm, smooth, and slightly uneven. Maybe someone else sat here once thousands of years ago, waiting for their oil to soak in, debating whether they'd remembered to feed the goats. A soft bell rings from deeper within the complex and the group stirs. It seems the final ritual of the evening is about to begin. You rise, turmeric hands and all, and follow the procession. You enter a large circular chamber lit entirely by ground-level lamps. Their flickering reflections ripple on the high walls, giving the illusion that you're standing inside a giant golden egg. The central pool in the room is shallow and perfectly still. Around its rim are smooth stones the size of footstools. People take their places on them with the solemnity of monks, though a few whisper jokes behind cupped hands. Sacred doesn't always mean serious. You find a spot and someone passes you a small clay cup filled with a clear liquid. Water. You sip, know it's infused, maybe basil or some prehistoric cousin of mint. A subtle taste that makes your mouth feel cooler. A woman steps into the pool and begins to sing soft, repetitive notes rising like steam. Her voice has that river bend quality to it, slow curving, inevitable. As she circles, she dips her hands into the water and scatters droplets at the edge. Others soon join her. A kind of water meditation begins with rhythmic splashing hand gestures and harmonizing humming. You're not sure whether this is ritual cleansing, a lullaby for the city's spirit, or just the closing time chant of Mohenjo-Daro's premium spa, but it works. You feel every knot in your shoulders dissolve like sugar in chai. And just as you think it couldn't get more surreal, a group of children runs in from a side corridor, laughing still damp from their own smaller bath. One of them is holding a toy, an ancient rattle carved with elephants and birds. They settle on a ledge and begin mimicking the adults with wide grins and occasional giggles. Some scholars propose that these community baths weren't just for hygiene, but for passing down traditions, learning through immersion, literally and metaphorically. The spa wasn't an escape from life. It was life wrapped in steam and sandalwood. The ritual ends with a final splash. Everyone rises, heads bowed, and the water grows still again. You step out lighter somehow. Not cleaner exactly, but clearer. Someone hands you a cloth, a length of soft cotton that smells of lemongrass and sun-dried clay. You pat your arms dry and inhale deeply, and for a second you're not a tourist from the future. You're just another person at the end of a long, fragrant day, grateful for warmth, rhythm, and quiet company. You step softly through the wide corridor that leads away from the singing pool, the cotton cloth still clinging damply to your skin, and the turmeric glow clinging stubbornly to your fingers. The air has cooled slightly, and for a moment you think you catch the scent of something sweet, perhaps cardamom or jaggery, but it vanishes before you can confirm. You round a curve and emerge into another open courtyard, this one quieter, darker, framed with low lanterns and low voices. Here the spa-goers have slowed even more, settling into twilight rituals that feel less like pampering and more like preparation for sleep. This is the wind-down zone, the early prototype of what modern spas might call the relaxation lounge. Minus the overpriced cucumber water, plus a few curious goats peering through a clay fence. In the center of the courtyard is a small fire pit, more symbolic than functional, with a single blue flame swaying in its heart. Around it, clay pots sit in a half circle, each giving off steam. One smells of eucalyptus, another like pepper and roasted roots. They're not for food. You quickly realize they're sleep brews designed to be inhaled, not consumed. You kneel beside one and lean in. The vapor curls into your nostrils hot and spicy. It hits the back of your throat and you cough once, then laugh quietly. It's not exactly relaxing, but then it begins to open you, clearing your sinuses, slowing your thoughts, untangling something in your chest that's been knotted since, well, who even knows? A man with a beard so thick it could house a small bird settles beside you. He motions toward the pot with one eyebrow. Like you survived that one, eh? You nod and he taps his own chest, then points to another pot. You crawl over this one, gentler smelling like toasted anise and dry leaves. You breathe it in. Better. This nighttime aromatherapy, it turns out, isn't just about the senses. Historians still argue whether these steamy brews had medicinal purposes or were simply used to mark transitions, day into night, worry into stillness. But carved tablets found near other bathing complexes show tiny images of leaves oils and even what may be the India's symbol for rest. So maybe it was both healing and habit medicine and metaphor. You lie back on a reed mat near the fire and look up at the sky. No light pollution, just stars. Millions of them. You imagine the great bath itself glowing under this same sky, people long gone leaning over its edge making the same sighing sounds you've heard all evening. To your left, someone is softly drumming on an object that looks suspiciously like an overturned turtle shell. The rhythm is lulling, almost heartbeat-like. You recognize its pattern. It's been used subtly throughout the spa experience. In the bathhouse, in the music courtyard. Even the singing earlier matched this tempo. It's the slowest possible beat you can walk to without falling over. A full-body metronome. And now you're syncing with it. You close your eyes not to sleep yet, but to listen more deeply. Behind the turtle shell beat, you hear wind weaving through distant brick corridors. Water dripping, someone laughing faintly in the next courtyard over. And beneath it all, a low hum, people humming together in another room, perhaps the last ritual of the night. You sit up and wander toward the sound. You're guided through another archway into a round chamber with a sand-covered floor. It's darker here. People are sitting in a spiral formation, humming in unison, the vibrations crawling across your skin like warm moss. You join the spiral, finding an open patch of sand, and let the sound envelope you. It's not a song exactly, more like a shared tone. Everyone humming the same note, sustaining it, letting it swell, then dip, then swell again. You add your voice, hesitant, raspy, but soon you find your pitch. It feels good, like your throat's been waiting to make this exact sound your entire life. This might be the oldest therapy on Earth, communal vibration. Some researchers believe that humming together in close proximity can trigger oxytocin releases, lower cortisol, and deepen social bonds. Of course, the people of Mohenjo-Daro weren't quoting neuroscience, but they knew what felt right. Eventually, the hum slows, fades. One person adds a final note higher and thinner than the rest. It rings like the memory of a bell. Everyone exhales in silence. You remain still, eyes closed. Your breath shallow now, but deep in your belly. You don't need to speak. No one here is speaking. Language feels unnecessary anyway. Half these rituals didn't need words, just presence. And this presence stretches back in time, past cracked tablets and lost languages into a space where water scent and song were the only alphabet needed. As the room begins to empty, a few stragglers stay curled on the sand, you among them. A soft blanket wool or woven cotton is placed over your shoulders by someone who doesn't need to be named. You're part of the circle now, even if just for a night. A small breeze winds through the open rooftop, cool on your cheek, warm on your toes. You consider falling asleep right here under the stars with turmeric still on your skin and ancient songs still humming in your ears. Before you drift too far, you feel a tap on your arm. It's a child barefoot holding out a small object, a token of sorts. It's a tiny clay figure, a bull with exaggerated horns and a flat snout. One of those famous Mohenjo-daro seals. You've seen them in museum displays but never held one. The child grins, teeth missing, then runs off. You roll the figure in your palm. It's smooth from years of handling. The seal has no written text, just an image, a message beyond translation. Perhaps this is how the spa ended every visit, not with a receipt, but with a gift, a silent memory to carry into tomorrow. As you rise, brush the sand from your knees and step back into the moonlit courtyard, you realize you've never felt this rested from a history lesson. You've soaked in stone tubs, inhaled prehistoric eucalyptus, and hummed yourself into the memory of a civilization. And the night's not even over. You pad quietly across the courtyard. Now the little clay bowl still cupped gently in your hand like a sleeping animal. The moon has drifted further overhead, casting long shadows between the walls. Somewhere a low gong hums once, maybe to mark the hour, or maybe just because someone felt like it. Time doesn't seem to tick here. It stretches and curls like steam from a terracotta pot. You follow a path flanked with lanterns, their flames trembling in the breeze, and find yourself in a small domed chamber, lower than the rest, partially underground, and noticeably warmer. You duck to enter and immediately feel a change in air. Thick, earthy, scented with hot stone, old herbs, and something slightly metallic. You're in a sweat chamber, the ancient version of a sauna. It's dim inside, lit only by a few oil lamps embedded into nooks in the walls. You sit on a low bench of fired brick, still faintly warm, and lean back. The walls are damp with condensation, tiny droplets running in rivulets over the smooth plaster. Across from you, a woman rubs a dark paste across her shoulders. It smells like crushed neem leaves and maybe ash. She glances over, nods once, and gestures toward a bowl beside you. You dip your fingers into it, gritty, cooling, possibly exfoliating. You smear some on your arm, and it feels like the kind of mistake you only realize later was genius. The air grows warmer. Your pores open, or at least that's what it feels like. Your thoughts stretch, melt a little. It's not the dry blast of a Finnish sauna or the scented fog of a Korean jjimjilbang. This is slower, more forgiving, less steam room and more primordial womb. Historians still argue whether these underground chambers were purely functional, used for illness, menstruation, or detoxification, or part of a larger spiritual hygiene. The truth is probably both. You don't sit in a room like this and not feel your soul getting gently steamed. A few other guests are present. One of them slowly chants something under his breath, not quite a song, not quite a mantra. It loops over and over, low, rhythmic, entrancing. Another person begins tapping the stone bench with their fingers, a subtle percussion, a kind of beat you feel in your bones rather than hear. You close your eyes and sink deeper. The walls of Mohenjo-Daro were designed with careful engineering, often aligned with the prevailing wind direction, which helped create natural ventilation systems. That means even in these underground rooms, heat doesn't become oppressive. It moves, it breathes. You feel this now, a puff of cooler air sneaking in through a narrow vent near the ceiling, like the building is whispering its secrets to you. Your skin prickles. You're sweating freely now and not in the stressed, panicked way. It's a release, like your body is exhaling for the first time in months. Suddenly, a young girl enters with a basket, carefully placing small rolled leaves in a central dish. She lights them, and soon the chamber fills with a new aroma, smoky, resinous, and vaguely fruity. It might be frankincense or some long-lost tree sap now extinct. Whatever it is, it wraps around your senses like a lullaby. You realize only vaguely that this process isn't random. The spa flows in stages, from immersion to scent, from group to solitude, from motion to stillness, each step building on the last. If this were a concert, you'd be in the hushed final movement, where the strings go soft and the violins hold that one high note until your chest tightens. Across from you, a woman wraps herself in cloth and exits the chamber without a word. One by one, others follow. You stay a little longer until the sweat cools on your back and the chanting man goes silent. Then you rise too, joints feeling floaty and limbs tingling. Outside the dome, the air hits like a breeze from another world. Crisp, cool, alive with night insects and the distant splashing of someone still in the bath. You stretch like a cat, arms overhead, and your joints make satisfying little pops. You're offered a drink as you return to the next courtyard, something in a carved cup, thick and slightly sweet. It tastes like roasted barley and honey with a medicinal bitterness hiding at the back. You sip slowly. It's probably ancient Gatorade minus the branding and neon color. One fun tidbit for you archaeologists found traces of barley date syrup and dried ginger in ancient Mohenjo-Daro pottery. Shards evidence of concoctions meant for more than just hydration. Some researchers believe these were used to rebalance the body after heat therapies, maybe even early versions of adaptogens. Or maybe it was just tasty. Let's not overthink it. You continue walking, but slower now. Even your blinks feel lazy. You pass a low wall covered in carvings, abstract animals, trees, wave patterns. You pause to run your fingers over the brick. The grooves are shallow but unmistakable. A fish, a stylized bird, a handprint. Whose hand a worker, a priest, a visitor like you? It's these moments that make you realize just how little we really know. Mohenjo-Daro left no Rosetta Stone. Their script remains undeciphered. No royal tombs, no epic battles carved in stone. Just bricks, baths, seal carvings, a whole civilization built around the idea of cleanliness, comfort, order, which when you think about it is oddly comforting. They didn't leave behind terrifying war murals or skull pyramids. They left behind bathtubs and urban plumbing, people who thousands of years ago were worried about whether their breath smelled nice after lunch. You step into yet another courtyard, this one more private. Just a few figures reclining on stone benches. You recognize a scent you haven't noticed in hours: sandalwood. It clings to the folds of the cloth draped over your shoulder. Maybe from the earlier massage, maybe just the atmosphere. Either way, you smell expensive. A small table offers bundles of herbs tied with thread. You're encouraged to take one. You reach for a bunch of dried mint and lemongrass tied together with red fiber. It crackles gently in your hand. A guide appears beside you smiling. He gestures toward a wall with a painted panel scenes of people doing mundane things, carrying water jugs, feeding goats, washing feet. Nothing dramatic, nothing grand, just peace. The caption below is of course undecipherable. A mystery sentence that might say, live well, or do your dishes, or tip your massage goat. You both chuckle without speaking, and you realize something else: history doesn't have to be loud. It can be quiet, warm, and deeply human, like a long bath at the end of a longer day. You follow the guide silently, your feet slapping softly against the worn bricks. The air is cooler now, but only just a gentle transition as the path narrows, the walls close in, and lanterns appear more frequently, glowing low and golden. You're not quite sure where you're going, and that's part of the charm. This isn't a resort itinerary. This is a meander through time, past mysteries wrapped in mud brick. You round a bend and find yourself standing in front of a series of rooms, side by side, each one no larger than a modern walk-in closet. Within them, raised platforms covered with mats or fabrics, some bare, some still holding copper bowls, folded cloths, and bundles of herbs. You've reached the rest chambers, the nap zone, the ancient answer to "I need 5 minutes." You step into one. It's simple, windowless, softly lit, insulated from the world outside. The bricks hold on to the warmth of the day. You sink onto the mat, which sighs slightly under your weight. There's a faint whiff of fennel and turmeric in the air, earthy and grounding. Here's a fun fact: some archaeologists believe these rooms doubled as both medical treatment areas and meditation cells. Just in case you wanted your nap with a side of transcendental reflection. Historians still argue whether the presence of aligned amulets in the corners suggests a spiritual function, or if people just had a strong interior design game. You stretch out arms over your head and stare at the ceiling. It's low and smooth, the clay works so cleanly it feels like a whisper above you. You let your eyes fall closed. For a moment, nothing exists, just breath, heat, the low throb of ancient silence. Someone walks by outside, bare feet, soft shuffle, and you smile at how easy it is to feel invisible here. Not ignored, just unbothered. Nobody's asking for your opinion. There's no scroll to check, no news to dread. You exist like a brick in a wall, present, essential, undramatic. A quiet knock, barely a tap, signals that it's time to move. You stretch again, bones making polite little clicks, and rejoin the path. The stars are brighter now. You must be past midnight. Somewhere in the city, a dog barks lazily, the ancient kind that guards things mostly out of tradition. You follow another corridor past what looks like a small courtyard filled with jars, some cracked, some sealed with waxy residue. Fermented things, probably. You lean in to sniff one and immediately regret it. Sour, pungent, possibly alive. You back away, respectfully given. Still, it raises a point: Mohenjo-Daro wasn't just a place for washing and lounging. It was a working city. Historians widely agree it housed up to 40,000 people at its peak. There were merchants, bakers, bead makers, potters, farmers, and yes, probably that one guy who always burned the lentils and set off the early warning nose-based security system. Your spa experience now leads you to a broad platform under the open sky. A fire pit sits in the center, ringed by stones, worn smooth from generations of elbows. A few guests sit in a half circle, sipping something steaming from little blackened cups. You're handed one too. It's thick, spiced, bittersweet. Some sort of tea, maybe from dried jujube fruit and bark. It tastes like something your grandmother might have forced on you, claiming it cures everything from headaches to heartbreaks. Someone across the fire starts humming, not to be noticed, just to exist. The sound folds into the night air, loops through the shadows, and for a second, it feels like the whole city breathes with you. You study the buildings now more closely, built from uniformly sized bricks laid in tight grid patterns with actual standardized weights used in their construction. This level of planning still stuns archaeologists. Some even argue it points to a centralized, maybe even bureaucratic governance structure. Others claim it could have been a more horizontal society, one where social roles were fluid and responsibilities shared. You sip again, considering that. The tea coats your mouth with something metallic but soothing. A man beside you reaches into a pouch and pulls out a delicate wooden comb. He offers it and you run it through your hair. It's oddly satisfying. You hand it back and he places it in a little pouch with a carved fish symbol on it. You wonder if that was his seal, his brand, or if it just looked cool. Further along the wall, someone has laid out a set of small clay discs, tokens maybe, game pieces, currency. Nobody really knows. You pick one up. It's cool to the touch and etched with a design that looks vaguely like a flower or a squid. Art in the Bronze Age had that vague interpretation vibe. The woman beside you gently taps your shoulder and points toward the western wall, where the firelight catches a deep groove like a scar across the bricks. It's a drain, a piece of the advanced sanitation system Mohenjo-Daro was famous for. Indoor toilets, covered sewers, engineered water flow, and over 4,000 years ago. Meanwhile, your apartment still leaks every time it rains sideways. You smile, vaguely ashamed of modern plumbing. You linger here a while, circling the fire, occasionally sipping from your cup, sometimes just watching the flames. Someone throws in a pinch of crushed leaves, and the fire sparks blue for a moment. The group oozes softly, but nobody claps. This isn't Vegas. This is the world's first luxury spa, and the vibe is reverent. A young boy runs by chasing a glowing insect, his laughter bouncing off the walls before disappearing into the night. You imagine that same sound echoing through this city thousands of years ago. Same bricks, same moon, different sandals. As you rise to leave, a man reaches out and touches your shoulder gently, then makes a gesture, fist to chest, then palm open. Maybe it means peace, or thanks, or simply, you smell like sandalwood and good choices. You mirror the gesture, and he smiles before turning back to the fire. You step back into the darkness, feeling a little lighter, a little less human, and a little more elemental, like something carved from stone and steam. The journey isn't over yet. You drift away from the firelight, your feet brushing against fine grit as the pathway twists again. The soft rustling of grass, real or imagined, follows you like the ancient city sighing in its sleep. And there, just ahead, framed in low walls and quiet shadows, is something you did not expect: a long stone bench set beneath a canopy of reeds with clay jars and small tools carefully arranged on low shelves beside it. This, your guide whispers without speaking, is the spa's grooming station. Think of it like an open-air salon, only this one operated millennia before anyone invented the word pampering. You ease onto the stone bench, feeling the cold seeping through the fabric of your tunic. A gentle splash behind you, someone pouring water into a shallow basin. You glance over and watch as a woman begins grinding something in a flat stone mortar. The smell of crushed neem leaves reaches you grassy and sharp. Yes, neem, still used today in many herbal shampoos, and here it is ground fresh before you ready to be mixed with clay or water depending on whether you're going for a hair mask or a light scalp scrub. One clay pot contains sand-flecked oil mustard, probably infused with dried basil. It glistens in the moonlight like liquid bronze. The woman offers it to you with a tilt of her head. You nod and she begins gently massaging it into your scalp. Her fingers are steady practiced. Your eyes flutter closed not out of fatigue, but because you feel your entire body exhaling at once. Historians widely agree that grooming and cleansing in Mohenjo-Daro weren't purely functional. There's evidence from figurines and etched seals that elaborate hairstyles and body decoration were major parts of daily life. Vanity maybe, but also identity status ritual and comfort. Because really, who doesn't feel like a god after someone oils their scalp and combs your hair back with fingers that know what they're doing? A small mirror is propped against the wall made from polished bronze. You catch a glimpse of yourself, glowing, skin-glazed eyes, a hairdo that's either fashion-forward or straight out of 2500 BCE. You look like someone who's just emerged from an $800 retreat but paid with good karma and a bag of barley. Beside the grooming station, a clay tray of adornments bangles made from conch shells, beads of carnelian and lapis lazuli, and a tiny copper stick with a flattened tip. Yes, that is ancient eyeliner. Well coal, a mix of charcoal lead sulfide and possibly powdered beetle. Historians still argue whether it was worn for beauty sun protection or to ward off evil spirits. Spoiler, it probably did all three. You dip the coal stick into the shallow dish and draw a line beneath each eye. It tingles slightly, nothing alarming, just enough to let you know it's doing something vaguely magical. Across the bench, another guest traces henna patterns across their arms using a wooden stylus. The paste is rich and reddish-brown, smelling faintly of copper and rain. You recognize the shapes, spirals, fish scales, something like a peacock tail. Abstract, beautiful, fleeting, much like your sense of time here. You glance up and notice something etched into the wall, a line of Indus script, neat and elegant. Still undeciphered, thousands of these symbols exist stamped on seals, walls, and amulets. Scholars can't agree if it's a full language, a proto-script, or something in between, which means that graffiti you're staring at might say divine resting place, or chop your onions here, or maybe just hi. Either way, it's calming. A reminder that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're just meant to be admired, whispered at, then left alone. You leave the bench reluctantly. Your scalp tingles pleasantly, your wrists smell like fennel, and your eyes catch flickers of firelight down another alley. You're pulled toward it, not out of urgency, but because curiosity here feels like gravity. It draws without force. This next courtyard is broader, and there in the center sits a broad, flat slab of blackened stone. It's ringed by tiny ceramic cups, some filled with what looks like crushed flower petals, others with darker smudges, ash, charcoal, spices. And then there's the heat. Someone's heating oils, letting them smoke gently over coals. The scent changes depending on which way you face, sometimes cinnamon, sometimes rose, sometimes something pungent you can't place, but somehow want to inhale forever. This is aromatherapy, ancient style. You lie down beside the slab, and a cloth is gently draped over your chest. A woman places two smooth stones, warmed by the fire, onto your palms. You feel your pulse echo through them. She drops a pinch of herbs onto the hot slab, and a cloud of scented steam rises. You breathe in, and the world tilts. Historians believe that such rituals were part of spiritual cleansing, not just physical. Many of the city's structures align with cardinal directions. Some chambers suggest they were used for seasonal ceremonies tied to solstices or harvests. Of course, some scholars argue this is overreach, that the alignment could be coincidental or purely functional. But lying here with night pressed around you and herbs curling into your lungs, you can't help but feel like you're part of a very old rhythm. One of the assistants begins humming low and resonant, and the others pick it up. It's not a song exactly, just a vibration that fills the stones, the fire, the walls. Your chest matches it. Your breath slows. You can't tell if your eyes are closed or just forgotten to open. You lie there until the humming fades, the steam thins, and the world sharpens again around the edges. You rise slower than before. Your limbs feel weighted but loose, like clay that's been just barely fired soft at the core. You're not finished, not yet, but you're getting close. A hand brushes your arm and gestures toward a low tunnel beyond the courtyard. You nod, your voice long gone, and step forward. The final chamber awaits. The tunnel is narrow, the ceiling low enough that you have to stoop slightly. Smooth clay lines the walls, cool and slightly damp to the touch. A whisper of air flows through from ahead, bringing with it something faintly mineral and warm, like a river that's been sunbathing all day. Your feet pad silently over ancient tiles, uneven but sturdy, and then the space opens without warning into a chamber so still, so perfectly silent, it feels like sound itself has been politely asked to wait outside. You've arrived at the hot soak. Not just any bath, this one is built to cradle time. The pool is sunken, oval-shaped, and lined with large bricks, many of which have seen the souls of thousands before you. The water inside barely moves save for the slow roll of steam across its surface. It glows faintly, reflecting torches mounted high in the walls, each flame as steady as a held breath. You pause at the edge and notice the tiny steps carved into the side of the pool, just wide enough for 1 foot at a time. They vanish into the warm water like a promise. You accept. You descend slowly. Each step warms your ankles, your shins, your knees. By the time you reach the bottom, the heat is hugging your hips like a lazy cat. The temperature isn't scalding. It's persuasive. The kind of warmth that convinces every muscle to settle a little deeper into itself. You lean back against the curved stone wall, close your eyes and drift. Mainstream historical fact alert: this bath exists. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro is one of the best preserved structures of the Indus Valley civilization. About 12 meters long, nearly 8 meters wide, and over 2 meters deep, it's lined with baked brick and was likely waterproofed with a layer of natural tar. That's right, bitumen, the ancestor of waterproof mascara and modern roadways, was your spa's tile grout. The bath had stairs on both ends and a clever drainage system, which many scholars believe indicates it was used for ritual bathing, not just practical hygiene. Public, yes, but not ordinary. Your fingers trail along the surface of the water, creating ripples that reflect against the brick walls like sleepy lightning. You tilt your head back. A few carved symbols are visible in the stone above you, More of that indecipherable indescript. You wonder if it says serenity this way or please no cannonballs. Across the pool, a figure pours water from a ceramic jug into a clay bowl, mixing in something green, maybe ground eucalyptus or turmeric. They offer it to another bather, who rubs it gently into their shoulders. Everyone here moves as if underwater, even when they're not. That's the spell of this place. And here's your quirky tidbit. Some archaeologists believe the Great Bath might have doubled as a calendar of sorts, because it's uncovered and precisely aligned. The angle of light during solstices might have created markers along the bath's edge. Bathhouse meets sundial, part relaxation, part celestial timekeeping. Take that smartwatch. You begin to notice how your body has disappeared into the warmth. Your skin tingles faintly, but in a distant sort of way. You stretch your legs and they feel both impossibly long and weightless. You're aware of the water's edge only because the temperature gently shifts at the very top of your shoulders. Around the room, pottery fragments and bath tools rest on ledges, curved scrapers for exfoliation, flattened stones used like loofahs, and bundles of fiber that might have once been ancient washcloths. One looks suspiciously like an overripe corn husk. You resist the urge to test its exfoliating prowess. Historians still argue whether this bath was a sacred space for priests or a communal hub open to all citizens. There's no definitive evidence of temples in the city, nor signs of kings or queens. Mohenjo-daro is refreshingly unroyal in that way. Power here seems to have pooled in the collective cleanliness as a shared sacrament. You take another breath, deeper this time. You let your head sink back and your ears dip below the surface. The sound changes instantly. Now it's just your heartbeat, slow and strong, pulsing like a tide. Every movement feels thick, like you're swimming through syrup. You exhale through your nose, watching bubbles bloom and disappear. Your thoughts slow. Your memories blur. What day is it doesn't matter. You're here now and time doesn't punch a clock in Mohenjo-daro. Someone steps into the water near you, and you feel the tiniest current swirl across your chest. No one speaks. This silence isn't awkward, it's sacred. It's the kind of silence that fills rather than empties. Eventually, reluctantly, you rise. The air feels cool now, brushing across your damp skin like silk pulled from a glacier. Someone hands you a soft cloth, woven flax perhaps, and you pat yourself dry, each movement measured, reverent. You step out of the chamber, water still beating across your shoulders, dripping quietly onto the tiles. Your body feels reborn. Or like it got a firmware update. Same shape, new settings. Outside, the sky has changed. Deep purple, now pin-pricked with starlight so thick it looks like powdered sugar tossed across obsidian. The city is quieter, though it was never loud. Just calmer, like it's satisfied you've come this far. A gentle tap on your elbow guides your attention to the next path, and for a moment you consider staying in the bath forever. But there's more. You pass under a lintel carved with spiral symbols scholars believe may represent water eternity or just really enthusiastic doodlers, and descend a gentle slope toward another faint glow. Your journey isn't done yet, but you're no longer seeking relief. Now you're just chasing awe. The path curves, gradually descending the way a river meanders when it's in no particular hurry. Your skin still tingles slightly from the bath, and you swear you're radiating warmth like a clay pot left in the sun. The stone underfoot is dry now, gently dusty, and the faint crunch of grit under your heels is the loudest sound in this part of the city. You come upon another doorway, no fanfare, no guards, just an open arch beneath a worn lintel. Beyond it lies a chamber bathed in an amber glow. The scent hits you first, smoky herbal sweet, somewhere between incense and firewood, with just the faintest trace of toasted grain. Like someone set a spa menu on fire, but in a good way. Inside is the drying room. Not a room where wet towels sulk on hooks, no. This is more ceremonial, more refined. It's a warm chamber lined with terracotta shelves, each holding folded fabrics, some rough, some gossamer thin. There are shallow bowls of ash, bundles of herbs, and low benches carved with repeating spiral patterns. And at the center, a hearth, small, square, and clearly ancient. The fire here is low, barely flames at all, more ember than blaze. But the heat it radiates is precise, intentional. You feel it curling around your calves, climbing to your waist like a friendly ghost. You sit on one of the benches and a soft cloth is handed to you, not for drying but for oil. Yes, oil. A small dish of golden liquid is set before you, thick and slightly viscous. When you rub a drop between your fingers, it warms instantly. It smells faintly of sesame with a whisper of camphor. You begin massaging it into your skin. The sensation is divine, like your skin has been waiting all day for this exact thing to happen. Joints you didn't know were tense begin to release. Your elbows say thank you. Your wrists sigh in relief. You've never been so aware of your kneecaps in your life. Mainstream historical fact archaeological digs in Mohenjo-Daro revealed multiple small rooms with low platforms, brick ovens and burn marks, evidence that fire-based treatments and oiling might have been part of their bathing rituals. The oils may have come from local plants, sesame, linseed, or mustard, each with its own soothing or antiseptic qualities. And here's a quirky tidbit. Some scholars believe certain oils were infused with crushed shell or mica, giving the skin a faint shimmer. That's right, 3,000 years before highlighters were a TikTok trend, ancient spa-goers were literally glowing. As you continue your ritual, your thoughts start to wander. What would it be like to live here? To wake each day with the river as your clock, the wind as your calendar. You imagine morning foot traffic, not from carts or clanging swords, but from people moving silently toward the bathhouse, wrapped in cloth, chasing tranquility. Your arms now glisten faintly in the firelight. The cloth soaks up the extra oil and you wrap it around your shoulders, the warmth sealing into your skin. You rise again lighter somehow. Your body feels polished, not in a flashy way, more like a well-loved pebble smoothed by years of river kisses. A narrow door opens onto a small terrace. You step outside and are met with a gentle breeze. It's nighttime in Mohenjo-Daro now, but the city doesn't sleep so much as hum. There are still shapes moving silently in the distance, someone replenishing firewood, someone guiding a ceramic jug across a courtyard. Even now the city feels like it's exhaling, like the day was good. The system worked. Everyone got clean. Historians still argue whether the bath and its surrounding chambers were reserved for priests, the elite, or were open to the broader public. Mohenjo-Daro, unlike many ancient cities, gives us few statues of rulers, no elaborate tombs, no thrones. Some believe this hints at a more egalitarian society, one where rituals like bathing weren't luxuries but rights. where everyone, not just the powerful, could smell vaguely of sesame and inner peace. As you lean against the terrace wall, you spot something below a long stone channel running beside the buildings. Water trickles through it, quietly redirected from the Indus, or maybe a city reservoir. You realize now how the entire spa experience has been engineered. This wasn't nature's happy accident. It was design, symmetry, planning. The Indus Valley engineers laid bricks in perfect grids, angled drains just right, sealed their structures with tar to prevent leaks. They used standardized weights and measures for bricks across hundreds of miles. If you time traveled them into a modern city council meeting, they'd probably fix everything in 5 minutes and then take a nap in the sauna. There's a soft rustle behind you. A figure gestures, not urgently, just invitingly, and you follow gliding into yet another corridor. This one is quieter than the rest. Less steam, more hush. You're approaching the end. Your limbs are heavier now, but not in a tired way. More like a blanket has been laid over your entire nervous system. You blink slowly. Your muscles are butter. Your joints are jazz. If someone asked you to define tension right now, you'd have to Google it. As you pass under a final arch, the tiles turn from brick red to cool slate gray. The color shift is deliberate. It tells your brain slow down. You've done enough. The day at the world's first spa has left you not only clean, but realigned somewhere between jellyfish and philosopher. And yet there's still one final room to explore. But no spoilers. Just one more breath. You take it in deep. The scent here is new floral, faint familiar in a memory you can't place kind of way. And as the last door opens, you step into a space that feels like a lullaby. We'll pause here. The lullaby room, if you can even call it that, is lit entirely by flicker. There are no torches here, just bowls of oil with floating wicks, each flame, a miniature sun hovering low to the ground. You step inside and it's like being wrapped in breath itself, soft, silent, warm. Your feet land on mats made of something that feels like woven palm or date fibers, springy yet firm. There's a rustling sound as you move, not loud, just enough to remind you that silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of calm. You look around. The walls curve subtly inward. It's like standing inside a seashell. There's no echo, no sharp edge. The sound of your own blinking might register louder than your breath, a place made for slowing down, or maybe for turning inward. Here attendants move slowly, their movements deliberate, their eyes never quite meeting yours but not rudely. More like they're trying not to wake a baby that isn't here. In one corner, a low table displays a careful arrangement of clay pots. One of them is uncapped, revealing a pale powder that smells vaguely spicy, like crushed clove or dried tulsi. You're shown to a reclining bench. If a cloud and a stone tablet had a baby, it would feel like this. Smooth, cool to the touch, and curved to cradle you. You lie back, your hair fanning slightly, your arms falling to your sides without a second thought. The silence is full now, not empty. Someone nearby begins to hum. No melody you recognize, just a single note, then a ripple upward. It reverberates through the chamber like a string being plucked somewhere in your chest. Not loud, not even lyrical, just steady, grounding. You let it wash over you, and then you're powdered. Yes, powdered. An attendant pats your arms, chest, legs with a soft puff from a pouch. The powder is scented and grainy, a bit like talcum, But without the talc, which wouldn't exist for millennia, this is probably some mix of rice flour, crushed petals, and fine ash. You feel drier and somehow cleaner than before. The oil on your skin has been gently buffed into a finish, like you're being prepped for a display in the world's most relaxed museum. Mainstream historical fact, excavations in Mohenjo-Daro uncovered various small cosmetic jars and finally made applicators suggesting a sophisticated knowledge of self-care rituals that went beyond bathing. It's possible that the spa experience concluded with powders or pastes, perhaps for aesthetic, aromatic, or even spiritual reasons. A quirky tidbit: some of the powders were mixed with animal-derived substances. One theory suggests fish scales crushed into dust were used for shimmer, so basically your ancient glam. But not everything here can be known. Historians still argue whether this final room served religious healing or simply hygienic purposes. Was this purification for the soul, or just a really fancy way to dry off? Did spiritual leaders meditate here after cleansing? Or did tired merchants just want somewhere quiet to sit and smell faintly like nutmeg? The records being non-existent leave much to the imagination. And speaking of imagination, yours has started drifting. Your body may be in Mohenjo-Daro, but your mind is off skipping across time. You think about how many other cities came later trying to build what this one had. Rome had baths, yes, but centuries after this. The Greeks late to the party. Even modern spas can't claim drainage systems as efficient as what the Indus Valley folks casually implemented in 2600 BCE. You imagine modern influencers traveling back here trying to post selfies with ancient soapstone combs only to realize there's no Wi-Fi and the only hashtag is carved into brick. Your eyelids grow heavier. The humming fades, or maybe your ears just tune it out. Someone places a cloth over your feet, rough, almost burlap-like, but it anchors you like being tucked in. You can smell the dye in the fibers, indigo probably, maybe turmeric. And then you hear water, not loud, not rushing, just a trickle, a channel under the room, like the city is breathing beneath you. It's all so interconnected. Water and fire, heat and powder, oil and stone. A network not just of brick and street, but of intention. Every detail meant to draw something out of you and replace it with something softer. The air shifts slightly. Someone passes behind you with a bowl. The scent is stronger now, lavender. No ancient lavender's cousin, something local to the valley. A flower no longer named but still fragrant in the folds of time. A flicker of warmth lands across your cheek. One of the oil lamps. The flame dances a little closer as someone adjusts the wick. Your skin glows for a heartbeat, then fades back into shadow. You are deeply still. And for a moment, everything outside this room, every modern ache, every digital ping, every late email or unpaid bill melts away. You are here thousands of years ago, and yet somehow home. And yet the experience has one last gift. You're guided once more, this time not to another room, but to a corner where a jar is waiting. Inside, tiny seeds. Fennel cumin, something anise-like. You're given a pinch to chew. The taste is earthy, sweet, cooling. You roll the seeds between your teeth and feel the day distill into flavor. If mint gum had a prehistoric ancestor, this would be it. Your breath is fresh. Your muscles hum like tuned strings. Your thoughts fuzzy around the edges like a sand drawing at twilight. The exit awaits. But the spa does not rush you. Time here feels less like a river, more like a pond, still glimmering and perfectly okay with you taking your time. You rise slowly. We're almost at the end of the day. One more breath, one more brick, one more ancient miracle in the palm of your hand. You drift through the corridor with that last lingering taste of fennel, still coating your breath footsteps now, slow enough to match your softened pulse. Your legs feel like they've borrowed the consistency of warm dough. Light presses gently against the curves of the stone, casting long shadows that no longer feel ominous, just sleepy. You could swear even the air sighs in this place. At some point, you cross into a shaded courtyard. There's no signage, no ceremony, just an opening of space. The walls ease outward, letting the ceiling pull back to reveal a slice of twilight sky. Burnt orange bleeds into deep indigo, and above it all, the first stars begin to blink awake, confused maybe at how little they're needed tonight. Here in the open, the floor is dotted with tiny ceramic bowls filled with glowing embers. The warmth is delicate, not the urgent heat of fire, but more like the exhale from a dragon who's already eaten. You settle down on a bench so polished it might as well be marble, though it's probably just local stone caressed by centuries of use, and maybe one too many oily elbows. You let your body surrender its weight, not collapse, not flop, just settle, like a scroll finally rolled tight. No drama, no rustle. The attendants are gone now, or they've become shadows. Either way, the last part of your spa day is apparently meant to be spent in the company of your own silence. Or the crickets. Crickets. Yep, real ones. Not holographic ambience or a Spotify loop, but actual tiny chirping things tucked into the brush that lines the courtyard edges. Nature's white noise. 2500 BCE edition. Mainstream historical fact Mohenjo-Daro's layout wasn't just advanced, it was zoned with almost modern city planning. Public areas like baths and courtyards were strategically placed for light ventilation and sound. Even today, architects study the placement of these spaces to learn from their acoustic calm and thermal balance. Now here comes a quirky tidbit. One recovered artifact from the site is a curious little object shaped like a toy animal, but made of stone with wheels. Some scholars believe it might have been a child's pull toy. Others argue it was ceremonial. Either way, the idea that someone left their favorite toy at a luxury spa 2 millennia before Christ is both ridiculous and deeply relatable. And yet historians still argue about the actual purpose of this entire complex. Was the Great Bath religious or hygienic? Was the courtyard for elite gatherings or mass cleansing? Or was it brace yourself a municipal laundry center? Yes, there is a non-zero chance you've just spent your day at the spa in what might have been the world's fanciest laundromat. It's unclear whether this makes your story more or less glamorous. You look down. Your fingers are faintly tinted from whatever pastes or powders they used on you. Not gaudy, not obvious. Just a hint, like your body's been marked with the memory of the day. A gentle watermark that'll fade by morning. Someone places a final object in front of you, a cup. Clay, wide-mouth, matte finished. Inside warm liquid, you sip. It tastes like barley and something sweet. Date syrup, maybe. Or fermented fig. It's thick, comforting. Not enough to jolt you awake, but enough to anchor your stomach to your spine. And now your eyelids are beginning to betray you. A light breeze wafts through just enough to ruffle the hem of your robe. Oh, right, you're still in that strange spa wrap, now dried and lightly starched by time and body heat. You're basically wrapped like an ancient dumpling, and frankly, you've never felt more at peace with that. And in this exact moment, it dawns on you this wasn't just a bath, or a routine, or a hygiene checklist. It was a ritual, one so immersive, so layered, that modern spas feel like vending machines by comparison. These people didn't just wash their bodies, they reset themselves. Every texture, every scent, every silence was part of a choreography designed to whisper the body into remembering you are alive, and that's enough. Somewhere in the distance, water trickles through stone, echoing faintly like a lullaby played on pebbles. You're free to leave now. The spa doesn't lock you in or cue a triumphant theme song. It just gently lets go. You feel like you're floating when you stand, or maybe the bricks beneath your feet are so well fitted they trick your muscles into imagining weightlessness. As you pass back through the final corridor, you glance down one last hallway, dark now, but you know what it holds. The chambers, the bath, the flicker of oil, the echo of whispers. You're leaving it all behind, but it's also coming with you, tucked beneath your skin. You exit into the dusk. Outside, the city is slowing. Vendors pack up their stalls. A dog yawns near a carved stone pillar. Children shout in the distance. Or maybe they're just echoing dreams from the past. You look up. The stars are brighter now, less bashful, and for one last breath, you let yourself believe that Mohenjo-daro is still here, not as ruins under sand, but as a living, breathing place that once knew the secret that peace isn't found in escape, but in returning to breath, to water, to warmth. And you right now are wrapped in that secret like a second skin. And now here you are, still and quiet, lying wherever you are in the real world, but somewhere deep in your mind, you're still in that courtyard. The warmth of the stones beneath your back hasn't quite faded. The night air is calm, a slow hush wrapping itself around you like a favorite blanket you didn't know you missed. It smells faintly of clay and cardamom, the kind of scent that asks nothing of you, just lets you be. You don't need to get up or figure anything out. The candles have burned low, and even the crickets are growing silent, tired of their own lullaby. Breathe in slowly. There's nothing to chase now, no history quiz at the end, no loud tour guides with microphones. Just the soft hush of ancient water forever slipping down grooves carved before your ancestors could write their own names. Your muscles know this rhythm, your bones too. Some part of you, something older than you, recognizes the patterns in those stones, the reason those paths felt so comforting to walk. Maybe rest, real rest, isn't new. Maybe it's ancient, built with care, fired in the same clay, and passed along like a whispered bedtime story across 5,000 years. So stay just a little longer. Let your body be heavy. Let your thoughts drift without anchors. Let the air move over your skin like the soft pull of sleep's tide. It's okay now. You've bathed. You've wandered. You've listened. And now at last, you can simply let go. Hey guys, tonight we travel somewhere warm, steamy, and built over 4,000 years ago, where silence hums in clay walls and the air smells like damp earth and sesame oil. You won't be trekking through pyramids or dodging pharaohs tonight. Nope. This journey is about self-care, ancient style. You're stepping into Mohenjo-daro, one of the first true cities in human history, and your one-day spa pass is already waiting. The bricks are sun-baked, the drainage is impeccable, and the sandals are well optional. You stroll barefoot across packed clay toes, brushing centuries of dust. The sun hasn't yet climbed over the brickwork skyline. Still, the city is already stirring. Chickens, okay, proto-chickens, rustle somewhere in the shadows. Water jars clink. From behind a curtain of reeds, you hear someone singing a slow, sleepy tune in a language no one's spoken in 3,000 years. If that doesn't already feel calming, don't worry, you probably won't survive this. Historically, that is. Mohenjo-Daro mysteriously vanished. Not your fault. Just try not to drink the bathwater. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is, because this city runs on its own clock. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk under a low arch and into a space that feels almost eerily modern. Streets are laid out in a perfect grid, like something a Roman might dream about centuries later. The air is cool at dawn, drifting in through carefully placed windows, ventilation ahead of its time. You can smell fresh clay and something nutty sizzling in a stone pan nearby. The sounds of soft chatter echo down the alleys, mixing with the rhythmic slosh of water, poured from jar to jar. It's not chaotic like you'd expect a first city to be. It's quiet, peaceful, deliberate. Every structure seems to know exactly what it's doing. And you're just a spay guest here, a weary traveler in need of a little ancient self-care. You pass under stone lintels so smooth they feel like polished wood. There's a woman sweeping a threshold with a bundle of reeds casting you a sleepy smile. Children already up and annoyingly cheerful kick a carved ball between them. Someone mumbles a mantra in a corner shrine, their incense curling in little ghosts over the bricks. You're headed toward the center of it all, the great bath. But for now, your feet take you on a quiet detour. A street cleaner nods at you as he pours water into a narrow channel that snakes under your toes. That's right. These folks had working sewage systems long before Rome was even a sparkle in its wolf mother's eye. Historians still argue whether these drainage systems were mainly for hygiene or ritual purity. You just know your feet are already cleaner than they were when you started. There's something deeply pleasing about the way every slab, every tile, every groove serves a purpose. There's also a slight whiff of, well, mystery, and maybe fish. That's the Indus River for you, never not a little fishy even in luxury. As the sun stretches over the rooftops, its light catches on burnished pots and little copper tools hanging from hooks. You peek into a small alcove where a potter gently pats down clay into a round tub, maybe a basin for rinsing tired hands, or maybe a bird bath. No labels. That's half the fun. You reach a raised platform with steps that don't quite creak, just shift slightly under your weight. There's a basin here with a bowl of sesame oil floating rose petals. And wait, is that a hint of turmeric? If this is the check-in desk, you're not mad about it. A figure emerges from the shadows in loose linen, their hair braided back with something shiny woven in. They say nothing but gesture with a kind of practiced grace. You follow them naturally. Why wouldn't you? You move through a colonnade where the breeze is just warm enough to hint at what's to come. Somewhere a bird trills a note so sharp and pure it makes you pause. Then you keep moving barefoot still through one of the world's oldest spa cities. And it wasn't just a spa, of course. Mohenjo-Daro was a full-fledged metropolis. Tens of thousands of people lived here in harmony with their wells, their rooftops, and their sacred baths. Except historians still argue whether it was ruled by king's councils or a bunch of very tidy priests. You can't really tell. No gold thrones here, no screaming statues, just efficient design and thoughtful spaces. You inhale deeply as a warm wind slides over your skin. For a place that predates even the most ancient empires, we know it feels oddly welcoming, almost familiar. A vendor passes by with a basket of barley bread, its scent making your stomach rumble a bit. You consider snagging one, but remember you're not here to eat. Not yet. You're here for the ritual, for the bath, for the kind of quiet pampering that doesn't need Wi-Fi or eucalyptus-infused towels. Just time, water, and bricks that remember more than they should. And as you reach the edge of the spa district, yes, it has its own district. You feel it in the soles of your feet. The city's alive. Still, the sun glints off something ahead and you squint toward it. It's not gold, not marble, just more of that perfect, timeless brick. The entrance to the Great Bath awaits. The Great Bath isn't quite what you expect. It's not flashy. There's no bubbling jacuzzi or potted palm trees, but it does have an uncanny stillness, the kind that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. You step through the wide doorway, and instantly the air shifts cooler, calmer, cloaked in the scent of water that's touched stone for generations. Before you stretches a massive rectangle of brick-lined beauty, the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, possibly the world's first public pool. Maybe not for swimming laps or playing Marco Polo, but for something deeper, something slower, ceremonial purification, or maybe just a really satisfying soak. The pool itself is sunken about 2.5 meters deep, its walls lined with perfectly cut burnt bricks, sealed with a kind of ancient tar bitumen, sticky, waterproof, mildly aromatic. You can still smell a hint of it if you inhale. A fringe detail archaeologists say it's the same stuff used to waterproof boats. Multi-purpose luxury, folks. You descend the wide steps carved into the bath's edge, each one worn smooth by feet long gone. And yet the design is so precise it rivals modern pools. There's a drain at the bottom, yes, a functioning drain, somehow still more efficient than your cousin's guest bathroom. As your feet touch the water, it laps against your ankles, warmed by the sun but not hot, just enough to make you sigh without thinking. And the acoustics beautiful. Even your breath sounds important in here, like a whisper bouncing off centuries. Historians still argue whether the bath was strictly religious or a kind of social hub. Ritual cleansing, town hall meetings and towels. A very formal water fight, no one's quite sure. But whatever it was, it mattered. Enough to sit at the center of the city, built higher than the rest of Mohenjo-Daro, on a platform that literally rises above the mundane. You linger at the water's edge, listening to the faint gurgle of a hidden cistern filling somewhere beneath the floor. You imagine bathers arriving in soft cotton wraps, lowering themselves into the water with practiced grace, their skin catching the afternoon light. A breeze drifts through an open window above, fluttering a cloth screen and sending a single leaf floating down onto the water. It bobs there lazy and unbothered, like you. Suddenly, someone offers you a clay cup. Inside is a drink that tastes like fennel and warm spices. It's not quite tea, not quite soup, but it makes your tongue curl happily. You raise the cup in a wordless toast to whoever invented spa beverages 4 millennia ago. You glance around and notice the side chamber's smaller rooms branching off the main bath. Some are likely changing rooms. Others, well, one of them contains what looks like the ancestor of every gym sauna you've ever pretended to use. A fired clay brazier sits in the center waiting to be filled with coals. You can just picture it, steam, sweat, a slow exhale. In another chamber, you spot a row of what might be massage tables or possibly altars depending on how optimistic you're feeling. A bowl nearby holds something sticky and pale clay, maybe face mask or ritual pigment. Again, historians can't quite agree, but it smells faintly of sandalwood and something citrusy, and your skin itches to try it. You dip a finger in and smear a streak across your arm. It dries quickly, leaving your skin cool and taut. Somewhere, a therapist in a linen tunic nods approvingly through the mists of time. Above the bath, the light shifts sunbeams cutting through geometric slats in the ceiling, leaving slow-moving patterns across the surface of the water. You sit on the edge, trailing your fingers through them, letting time blur at the edges. Then a sound, a soft splash. Someone else entering the bath on the far side. Not a ghost, just another early riser. They nod at you in the way only two people sharing an ancient luxury can. Wordless, respectful, sleepy. You consider dipping fully into the water now. There's no chlorine, no lifeguard, and definitely no sign that says no cannonballs. But somehow you resist the urge to leap. The silence deserves better than a splash. You slide in slowly instead, feeling the warmth climb up your spine. Your hair floats around you like seaweed. It's like being held by the past. And now you understand something essential. This isn't just a bath. It's a message, a moment preserved in water and bricks saying, we were here, we were clean, we cared. And the best part, no one's rushing you. There's no timer, no loud music, just your breath and the subtle ripple of time moving slowly across the water's surface. You close your eyes and float. Not all of Mohenjo-Daro is like this, of course. There are neighborhoods filled with industry and noise potters spinning wheels, weavers at their looms. But this bath, this is the city's heartbeat, and right now you're synced to it. The light above shifts again, and you hear footsteps outside. Another group approaching. You take that as your cue to begin the slow, slippery climb out of the water, dripping peace with every step. A gentle breeze greets you like a towel. You wrap yourself in a cloth someone's thoughtfully placed nearby. It's not fluffy, but it's warm from the sun and smells faintly of smoke and jasmine. You walk back out through the doorway, pausing one last time to glance over your shoulder. The water's surface has already stilled like you were never there. But you were. The bricks remember, and maybe, just maybe, they approve. You step back into the courtyard, towel wrapped around your waist still glowing from the great bath, like you've been slow cooked in serenity. The sun is higher now, its rays skipping across rooftops like lazy messengers. There's a low hum in the air, a kind of ambient busyness that reminds you this isn't just a spa, it's a city. A living, breathing metropolis with pipes, drains, taxes, and at least one guy somewhere shouting about lentils. But for now, you head down a shaded lane lined with smooth mud brick walls toward your next indulgence, the massage quarter. Yes, you heard that right. This ancient city had specialized rooms and possibly even professionals who get this existed solely to make your muscles sigh in delight. You duck into a side room cooler than the outside air. There's a soft mat laid on the floor and a shallow bowl filled with some kind of oil. It shimmers like sunlight trapped in liquid form, and when you dip your fingers in the scent of sesame and something slightly nutty hits your nose, it's thick, rich, and probably the same blend some very important merchant got slathered with before negotiating the price of dried figs. As you lie down, someone enters the room. They don't speak, just nod politely. Their hands are practiced firm without being brutal, and within seconds your shoulders feel like melting wax. You try not to drool, but let's be real, it's a losing battle. Here's a fun little detour. While your knots untangle, historians still argue whether these massage rooms were part of elite homes or public spaces. The archaeological footprint is fuzzy. No neon sign that says "Treat Yourself Temple," but the presence of bathing areas, adjacent chambers with bench-like platforms and remains of scented oils all point toward the existence of relaxation as a civic virtue. This place didn't just value clean bodies, it valued well-rested ones. And the kicker, some of the oils found in pottery shards contain trace elements of turmeric and even cannabis. That's right, you may be experiencing the world's first infused spa treatment. Take that overpriced CBD lotion. Outside the chamber, a soft chime rings. Not a digital ping, obviously, but something struck by hand, maybe a bronze bell, or a carved wind chime swaying just right. It's a reminder that there's more waiting. Refreshed and smelling like an ancient wellness influencer, you pad down the narrow hallway that connects these pampering quarters to something even more surprising: indoor plumbing. You knew it was coming, but it still feels weird to be excited about toilets. And yet here you are. The private lavatories of Mohenjo-Daro were marvels of practicality. Little cubicles built into the side of homes and public structures, complete with sloped drainage channels. They may not have had dual flush systems or fancy Japanese bidets, but compared to other ancient civilizations, Mohenjo-Daro was light years ahead. You didn't have to toss waste into the street like a barbarian. You just did your business, poured a little water down a chute, and voila, out of sight, out of smell. And now, because it's you and your brain never quite settles you, pause to consider the debate. Did everyone have access to these plumbing luxuries, or just the wealthier residents? Some scholars argue the evenly distributed layout of these facilities suggests egalitarian access. Others point out that certain quarters were clearly more upscale, implying class distinctions, even in the realm of hygiene. But right now, you're just grateful for the option. You step into one such room, modest, clean, with a small jar of sand or ash for hand cleaning afterward. The ventilation is smart, and the vibe is minimalism before it was cool. Honestly, it's better designed than some modern bus stations. Afterwards, you exit into the sun again, blinking like you've emerged from a meditation cave. You hear a gentle clinking nearby. A vendor's stall is being set up, its cloth awning flapping lazily in the breeze. Curious, you wander over. And there it is, a small table lined with jars, clay, stone, and shell, each filled with powders and pigments. Ancient spa cosmetics, face dusts, hair oils, even something suspiciously close to eyeliner. Because yes, self-care included aesthetics too. The vendor, a cheerful woman with laughter lines around her eyes, hands you a small wooden mirror. You peer in and see yourself sun-kissed, oiled, and borderline glowing. She tilts her head, then dabs a bit of ochre on your cheek. You look fabulous. Slightly ridiculous, but fabulous. There's something comforting about the way beauty was treated here, not as vanity, but as ritual. Enhancement, not concealment. Maybe that's why the figurines from this era have those serene, unfussed expressions, like they've all just come back from a really good facial. You trade a shiny red one for a tiny jar of powdered coal, worth every speck of quartz sand. You head toward one of the central streets now, your steps slow and content. People move around you with quiet purpose. There's no traffic, no shouting, just sandals against stone, voices in rhythmic cadence, birds fluttering overhead like gossiping neighbors. You pass a communal well, its stone lip worn smooth from generations drawing water. A child dips a clay pot, then drinks deeply before giggling at her own reflection. You wave. She waves back. It's a moment so small and perfect, it slips into your bones like warmth. You keep walking. The city breathes with you, its rhythm sinking to your now mellow pulse. You feel clean inside and out. Not just scrubbed, but reset. Like the bath and the massage and even the trip to the lavatory have unknotted more than just your muscles. This isn't just a spa, it's a system, a city designed not just for survival, but for ease, for human dignity. It's quiet luxury in brick form, a civilization that took the time to build spaces where people could feel better. And in a world where we often rush, often forget to breathe, that feels revolutionary. You head deeper into the city, still wrapped in that post-bath haze, trailing the faint scent of sesame oil and turmeric. The wide central street ahead of you, straight as an arrow and meticulously laid out, opens like a boulevard in a space-themed utopia. On either side, houses are nestled behind modest mud brick facades, 2 stories tall with flat rooftops that glimmer faintly with morning dew. A breeze moves through the street with purpose, as though it too knows the city's blueprint by heart. You pause beneath a shaded overhang, trying to imagine how the people of Mohenjo-Daro move through this place every day. Did they shuffle lazily like you or walk briskly with full pots and bigger worries? Historians still argue whether the town was run by a priestly class or governed more democratically by its merchants and civic planners. No palaces or grand temples have been found, just perfectly gridded roads, standardized bricks, and enough infrastructure to make modern city councils feel inadequate. This, you realize, was a civilization designed by spreadsheet brain long before spreadsheets were a thing. Someone walks past balancing a basket of green lentils on their head, barely glancing at you. Their robe flutters gently, and you're struck by how elegant everything is without trying to be. Functional fabrics, practical homes, and drainage that actually works. You could probably live here and only complain like twice a week. You meander to the side street, drawn to a curious sound, the rhythmic chipping of stone on stone. You turn a corner and find a group of workers carving bricks. And not just any bricks. These are identical, uniform in size, shape, and color, the result of what might be humanity's first obsession with standardization. And you thought IKEA was picky. You watch one artisan dunk a freshly fired brick in water, cooling it before stacking it neatly with others. You pick one up, heavy, sun-warmed, and faintly metallic in scent. The texture is smooth, and you realize the uniformity wasn't just for looks. These bricks allowed walls to be built quickly and securely, making them far more stable than the chaotic jumble of stones used in later, more dramatic ruins. Some archaeologists believe the bricks were encoded with symbolic meanings, shapes, or ratios meant to resonate with spiritual or cosmic principles. Others say no, it was just practical. You smile thinking it's probably both. A civilization this thoughtful doesn't do anything by accident. Behind the brick makers, you spot a larger structure, a warehouse, or perhaps a granary. Inside the floor dips into sunken bins, their clay linings still visible after thousands of years. You imagine grain stored there, poured by the sackful and guarded with bureaucratic fervor. Because if Mohenjo-Daro had one defining trait besides its bathhouse flair, it was paperwork-level order. You remember reading that they had weights and measures standardized across the city. Cubes, cones, cylinders, each precisely calibrated and likely used in trade. You picture two merchants arguing over fish pulling out matching stone weights to settle the score like ancient accountants. Petty but polite. Near the granary there's a low wall and beyond it a garden. Not wild and lush, but orderly and segmented. Probably herbs, you think. You step closer, touching one of the surviving clay planters, now dry and crumbling. The scent of fennel wafts from a nearby bush, which somehow still grows, twisting itself around the edge of a surviving irrigation ditch. You bend down and trail your fingers in the channel, now dry but clearly engineered to funnel water across different zones of the city. It's like nature and technology dated for a while here. A solid functional romance. You hear a laugh and turn to see a cluster of children running down the alley, skipping stones and shouting in a language long gone. You can't understand a word, but their joy is universal. One of them wears a copper bangle, a shiny circle catching the light as he lifts his arm. Jewelry in Mohenjo-Daro wasn't just for show, it was art, identity, and sometimes status. And it was intricate. You could probably walk into a street stall and pick out a silver amulet that wouldn't look out of place on Etsy. You duck into one such stall, a shaded nook with clay jars, bronze tools, and strings of beads hanging from wooden hooks. The vendor grins and gestures to a tray shell, bangles, etched seals, and a tiny carved bowl. The seals are particularly fascinating, little square tablets with animals and what appears to be a script. Mohenjo-Daro's language remains undeciphered to this day. Hundreds of sign symbols, curves and dots carved into stone, like forgotten tweets waiting for someone to crack the code. You wonder what they say. Property markers, receipts, don't touch my lentils. Historians still argue whether the script was phonetic or purely symbolic, or if it was even a full language system at all, which is weirdly comforting. Even a society this advanced had its mysteries. You pick out a seal etched with a unicorn-like creature. Yes, unicorns were a thing here. Or maybe it's a stylized bull, depending on how much you're squinting. Either way, you trade another bead for it and slip it into your pouch. Souvenirs are important. You stroll back into the main street, now a little sweatier, a little more sun-kissed. The buildings cast long shadows as the sun shifts, and the whole city starts to hum with the quiet rhythm of midday. You pass a well, then another bathing area, this one smaller and tucked beside a row of homes. Not everyone used the Great Bath. Many had private baths, small square chambers with sloped floors and personal drains. You peek inside one, and see the same fine brickwork, the same deliberate layout. Imagine being a servant tasked with scrubbing one of these daily. Clean lines, clean floors, and a strict no muddy feet policy. You're suddenly grateful for your own bath's drain, even if it sometimes gurgles like a haunted kettle. As you move along, you start to realize the real magic of Mohenjo-Daro isn't in one single building or invention. It's the way everything fits together. Each part drains, baths, bricks, streets is part of a quiet, powerful whole. No big monuments, no flashy statues, just steady, thoughtful design that makes life a little easier, a little more comfortable. Kind of like this walk you're on, unhurried, balanced, maybe a little too full of sesame oil, but we're not judging. You stop for a moment under a tree. Yes, there are trees, ancient tamarind, or maybe neem, their branches just starting to flicker with birds. The city buzzes softly around you. People live here, really live, not just survive. And suddenly you're not just visiting a spa. You're a guest in a world that once thrived quietly, competently, without empires or conquests or drama, just good drainage and excellent massages. The sun climbs higher and the light shifts into a brighter gold as you wander farther down the meticulously planned lanes. Mohenjo-Daro stretches out like a gridded maze, designed by someone with an architecture degree and serious control issues. Every road, every home, even the tiny staircases seems part of a master plan, not in a creepy Stepford way, but in a "this city probably had a better zoning board than yours" way. You slow your pace as you pass a quieter neighborhood, a residential block tucked into the northeast quadrant of the city. The air here is calmer, less market noise, more soft footfalls, maybe the clink of a pot being set down in a shaded courtyard. You peek through a doorway and see a woman stirring something in a stone bowl surrounded by dried herbs. Her bangles jingle faintly as she works. She doesn't look up, just keeps grinding. This is the quiet luxury of daily life, a slow ritual of spice and rhythm, unbothered by your presence. You take a turn and end up in front of one of the larger houses. It's not a mansion by modern standards, but it's definitely upper middle class by Mohenjo-Daro standards. 2 floors, a private well, a courtyard, and most importantly, a personal bathroom. Not an outhouse, not a trench, but a tiled little room with its own drain and water system. You step inside and feel the cool shade settle over you. The walls still bear the smooth imprint of hands that molded them brick by brick, day after day. Here's a fun fact: archaeologists found over 700 wells in this city. That's one well per every 2 or 3 homes, which is either very advanced or proof that people in ancient Pakistan were extremely thirsty. You examine the private bath, marveling at how water would have been drawn up from the well, poured into a basin, and then drained down into the city's underground sewer system. It's that last part, the drainage, that keeps catching your attention. Because unlike many later civilizations looking at you, medieval Europe, the folks here understood that clean water and waste disposal should not be roommates. You trail your fingers along the sloped floor. The craftsmanship here doesn't scream for attention, it whispers. Function over flair, peace over pomp. You wonder who lived here. A merchant, a priest, a potter who hit it big. Historians still argue whether these wealthier homes belong to religious figures or just successful tradespeople, since the city lacks the big ostentatious buildings you'd expect from a priestly elite. From the corner of your eye, you spot something small and round on the floor, A smooth black stone bead. You pick it up, rolling it between your fingers. Beads were big business here. Mohenjo-Daro's residents didn't just wear them, they made them, with a patience that should have earned them several spa days of their own. Back on the street, you follow a smaller alley that leads toward what appears to be a bead workshop. It's a cramped space, but neat stone platforms arranged around small fire pits, containers filled with uncut stones, bone tools stacked beside polished semi-precious gems. Carnelian lapis lazuli even faints a kind of early glass glimmer from tiny clay bowls like sleepy-eyed treasures. You kneel beside a table where someone's left a nearly finished bead half-drilled with a bow drill. It's impossibly small, and you squint wondering how anyone had the dexterity to make thousands of these bead after bead in perfect symmetry. It's like the Indus Valley was home to history's first Etsy overachievers. One wall of the workshop displays several circular stamp seals, tiny works of art that were used to mark goods, possibly even documents or clay tags. Most are carved with animals, tigers, elephants, buffaloes, and underneath lines of the mysterious Indus script. Again, you feel that gentle itch. What did these mean? Was this someone's signature, a brand, or a completely different writing system? We've misunderstood for years. Scholars continue to debate whether the script was ever meant to be fully readable or if it was more symbolic, part language, part art, like an emoji alphabet written in stone. You pass a few workers hunched over bead trays, speaking softly. Their hands move fast, even in this heat. You think about your own jewelry box back home and realize you've never cared this much about craftsmanship, not once. Maybe it's time to appreciate the tiny things more. As you leave the workshop, the air shifts again, now filled with the earthy tang of wet clay. You follow it instinctively and end up at a potter's yard where clay vessels line wooden shelves like a museum of daily life. No two look alike, but they all serve a purpose: water jars, spice bowls, cooking pots, urns. Some are sun-drying, others cooling under woven mats. One potter works at a wheel, which turns with surprising speed for something thousands of years old. You watch mesmerized as a shape rises from wet clay, like a ghost being convinced to stay put. Historians aren't entirely sure whether the potter's wheel originated in the Indus Valley or was imported from Mesopotamia, but Mohenjo-Daro made excellent use of it either way. You lean in and see the potter gently score a floral design into the rim, steady and precise, and you realize this isn't just a utility, this is art. Subtle, useful art that gets to hold soup. Before leaving, you glance at a row of tall jars marked with faint paint, zigzagging stripes, and circular dots in red and black. Some scholars believe these were used to transport goods, grains, oils, maybe fermented fish paste. Others think they were ritualistic, part of household offerings or ancestor worship. Which brings you to another curiosity. Mohenjo-Daro has no confirmed temples, no giant altars, no murals of gods hurling thunderbolts. Whatever spirituality these people practiced, it wasn't about spectacle, more like quiet observance folded neatly into daily life like an extra blanket at the foot of a bed. As you walk, your steps echo in the narrow alley, mixing with the sounds of bird song and the soft creak of wooden shutters. You pause to let a goat pass. Yes, even in this highly civilized spa town, there are goats. This one blinks at you like it knows something and moves on. Classic goat. You veer into another home, this one smaller but just as cleanly designed. A sunken hearth sits at its center with a small clay ledge for cooking pots. In the corner, an elevated sleeping platform covered in straw mats and reed cushions. You sit for a moment brushing your hands over the mat, imagining what it'd be like to live in this exact space. Eat lentil stew. Lie down as the breeze moves through the open ceiling slats. Simple, grounded, and surprisingly restful. You stretch your back and look up at the filtered sunlight cutting through dust and birdsong. You're not just visiting history, you're living it for a day. And now it's time to find a little something to eat. A gentle breeze carries the scent of lentils, turmeric, and something sweet, maybe honeyed dates through the narrow stone alleys of Mohenjo-Daro. And your stomach does that theatrical little growl that always happens when you wander past food stalls. It's ancient times, yes, but your body clearly doesn't care. It wants lunch and it wants it now. You follow your nose like some kind of urban bloodhound weaving past quiet courtyards and clay ovens until you reach an open square buzzing with midday life. No signs, no menus, but plenty of people seated cross-legged in the shade, scooping food from wide ceramic bowls, chatting, laughing, bartering with half-serious intensity. There's no such thing as a restaurant here, not in the modern sense, but that doesn't mean people aren't dining out. What you're seeing is the ancient version of a food court, a communal eating area where vendors dish out hot meals from massive pots and customers pay with beads, tokens, or, according to some theories, even song. Yes, historians still argue whether certain street performances could be traded for food or goods. Imagine paying for lunch with a TikTok dance. You settle beside a group huddled around a wide leaf-lined plate. Someone hands you a small scoop of rice dotted with lentils and something resembling chickpeas, topped with crushed herbs and a dash of thick savory sauce. It's warm, earthy, spice but not overly fiery. There's also a pickled side, sharp and tangy, served in a tiny glazed bowl with a carved animal motif. Is that a rhino, a unicorn? Hard to say. Indus Valley art is full of abstract animals no one's quite managed to identify. As you eat, you watch the life of the square unfold. A child chases a clay toy on wheels. Two women swap bracelets with teasing smiles. A vendor roasts something nutty over a fire pit, sending out smoke signals that say, "You're definitely going to want seconds." Water is poured into your palm from a small jug. No communal cups here, just careful hygiene in action. The people of Mohenjo-Daro took cleanliness seriously, which is perhaps not what you'd expect from a 4,000-year-old society. But when your city has a grid layout and a functioning sewage system, you've probably got time to invent soap and hand-washing rituals. And yes, archaeologists have found rounded balls of clay believed to be early forms of soap or body scrub. If they had bath bombs, you wouldn't even be surprised at this point. Behind you, someone sings a soft, rhythmic chant that rises and falls with the cadence of work. It's not a performance, just part of a daily rhythm. You close your eyes for a moment and let the sounds layer over one another, the clatter of bowls, the hum of voices, the hiss of boiling water, and that low melodic voice threading it all together. You've finished your meal, but there's one more delicacy you're curious about: date wine. Or is it date syrup? Maybe both. Some evidence suggests the residents fermented local fruits and sweetened them into drinks, either for ritual purposes or just because ancient people liked to party. That too is a scholarly toss-up. Some argue the pits found in storage jars suggest fermentation, while others think they were simply prepping massive batches of jam. Either way, you spot a clay amphora being gently tipped and a dark, syrupy liquid poured into shallow ceramic cups. You accept one, cautiously sniff it, and take a sip. It's sweet but earthy, almost smoky. You have no idea what it's doing to your blood sugar, but your soul approves. After eating, you wander back into the quieter edge of the square, where elderly women sit weaving thread through small wooden looms. The cloth here is lightweight cotton, dyed in gentle shades of rust ochre and faded green. Some have geometric patterns pressed in with stone stamps. And while most people wore basic wrap garments, it's clear that decoration mattered, subtle, personal, and always handmade. You pass by a stall selling shell bangles and semi-precious stone rings. Lapis lazuli again, this time set into simple bronze bands. A trader with a weather-beaten face catches your gaze and raises an eyebrow. You point to a spiral-shaped pendant, and he nods, handing it to you. It's heavier than it looks. There's a story in its lines, one that's outlived its owner and the hands that shaped it. You thank him with a small bow. No coin exchange. Maybe your curiosity was enough of a trade. As you walk, you notice more public wells, some busy, some silent. One sits at the base of a communal platform where two young men are carefully shaving one another's heads. No mirrors, just trust and muscle memory. You pause amused as one slips, the other flinches dramatically. Everyone laughs, including you. It's these little things that make the city feel lived in, not just excavated. The afternoon wears on, and the sun casts longer shadows between the buildings. A group of musicians gathers under a pergola woven with dried reeds. One plays a stringed instrument with a bow, another keeps rhythm with clapping stones. A third hums a tune that seems to match your heartbeat. The song is soft, circular, like a lullaby for the city itself. You sit for a while on a low stone bench, letting the music wrap around your spine. It's a strange feeling, familiar, yet completely alien. You don't know the lyrics or even the scale, but you feel comforted. It's as if the city is humming to itself, content in its routine. Nearby, a wall bears a faint painted mural, two figures side by side holding round vessels above their heads. A ritual, a game. Maybe just someone's idea of good interior design. Historians still argue whether such images had ceremonial meaning or if they were closer to ancient bathroom art, decorative, but not deeply spiritual. It's all part of a mystery. Mohenjo-daro gives you just enough to feel connected and then pulls back, keeping its secrets tucked between the bricks. A soft chime rings out from a copper gong strung between two mud brick pillars. It's not a religious signal, it marks the closing of market hours. The bustle softens. Vendors pack their wares. Children begin their reluctant trudge home. You take one last look around, soaking in the heat, the dust, the humanity. You didn't just visit a ruin. You shared a meal, a rhythm, a moment. And it's not over yet. The best part of any luxury spa experience, the massage. You wander away from the square still glowing from your late lunch and that mystery sip of date wine. Or was it syrup? Hard to tell. But your limbs are looser now and your feet move in that content, slightly sluggish shuffle that always follows a good meal. You're not walking so much as gliding one sun-warmed stone at a time. The alleyways grow quieter again, and you begin to hear more subtle sounds, the creak of pulley ropes at a nearby well, the soft brush of feet on clay tile, and the swish of linen garments in the breeze. Somewhere behind you, a child sneezes. Someone else answers with a laugh. You follow the curve of a wall worn smooth from generations of elbows brushing against it and find yourself standing before a wide-open courtyard. At the far end, a broad doorway framed by carved stone. You step through. Inside, the temperature drops. Sweet relief. The walls here are thicker, built not just for privacy but for coolness, and the air smells of pressed herbs and something faintly metallic, bronze maybe, or dried flowers in clay pots. This is it, the massage chamber. Well, at least what we think was a massage chamber. Historians still argue whether this room, marked by smoothed-down benches and narrow water channels, was used for physical therapy, religious ritual, or good old-fashioned luxury. The evidence is tantalizing but not conclusive. A few flat stones may have been used for bodywork. Some think they were heated with embers and wrapped in cloth to warm aching muscles. Others point to residues of oils and herbal pastes found in similar buildings across the Indus Valley. Of course, it could have just been a really upscale laundry room, but that would be boring. So we're going with Spay. A man gestures for you to lie down on a low stone platform. You oblige. He says nothing, just begins working warmed oil into your shoulders with slow circular strokes. The oil smells like sesame and maybe neem. Earthy, slightly bitter. You wince at first, unused to the pressure, but then your muscles begin to yield like sun-warmed wax. You close your eyes. His fingers move in practiced lines, pressing gently along pressure points you didn't even know you had. Between your shoulder blades, just behind your ears, the arches of your feet. He uses a small rounded tool at one point, polished bone perhaps, or carved wood, to glide along your calves with a sensation halfway between pleasure and an urge to sneeze. You let out an involuntary sigh, a deeply ancient, profoundly unnecessary sigh. Above you, the ceiling is painted in faded geometric patterns, interlocking spirals and diamond shapes that seem to shimmer in the oil-scented stillness. Was it decorative, symbolic? Was someone laying here 4,000 years ago, staring up at the same hypnotic ceiling and thinking the same sleepy thought? This is pretty nice, actually. Around the room are shallow bowls, some with smooth stones inside, others with petals or dried leaves. In one corner, a clay pot simmers over a low flame, releasing tiny puffs of steam. You suspect that whatever's brewing in there was meant for your joints or your chakras or your general vibe. Possibly all three. The massage continues, moving now to your arms and wrists. The practitioner dips a piece of soft cloth into warm water and wrings it over your skin, cleaning off the oil with almost ceremonial slowness. It's the ancient equivalent of a hot towel. Honestly, feels divine. As your body goes limp with gratitude, your mind drifts, because that's what minds do during massages, even in 2600 BCE. You wonder what ailments they treated here. A twisted ankle from hauling bricks, tension from grinding wheat, emotional exhaustion from having to measure out barley by the handful. While your neighbor gossips about your kiln technique, it's worth noting that this civilization, though advanced, left us zero deciphered texts. We don't know what they called these buildings. We don't know what they whispered to each other while lying here, eyes half closed. We barely even know what language they spoke. It's one of the great mysteries of ancient history and an ongoing academic migraine. So instead, we read their bodies, their tools, their habits, and right now your body is reading one very clear signal: nap imminent. The massage ends with a series of taps, gentle drumming across your shoulders, like someone knocking politely on the door of your nervous system, asking if it's ready to rejoin society. You sit up slowly, blinking in the dim light. You're offered a cup of spiced water infused with fennel and cardamom. It tastes like someone turned calmness into a beverage. You give the massage attendant a grateful nod. Words don't seem necessary. He bows, then vanishes through a cloth-draped exit like some oil-scented ninja. Feeling weightless and slippery, you wrap yourself in a cotton shawl and step out into the courtyard. The sunlight doesn't feel harsh anymore. It feels like a slow smile stretching across the sky. Outside, the city is winding down for the evening. A soft breeze flutters through the palms. The wells glimmer with reflected gold. You pass a man singing softly as he washes his hands in a small basin. Behind him, a woman hangs clean cloth to dry rows of them, fluttering like prayer flags in the warm wind. The aroma of cooked grain and roasted root vegetables returns, this time mingled with wood smoke. The streets are quieter now, but still full of motion, slower, sleepier, with the kind of peace that only comes when everyone's had a full belly, a thorough scrub, and perhaps a shoulder massage by a wizard in linen pants. One of the city's signature birds, a kind of small, long-tailed dove, flutters past overhead, cooing like it's narrating the whole scene. You try to mimic the sound. It comes out more like a sneeze, but hey, A for effort. Your legs carry you toward a series of steps leading up to one of Mohenjo-Daro's raised platforms. You don't know what's up there yet, but your freshly massaged calves are ready to find out. And as your foot touches the first stone step, you realize this might be the most luxurious day you've ever spent in a city that doesn't technically exist anymore. But it feels real. Right now it is real. You make your way up the wide, gentle stone steps, now warm to a comforting glow under the setting sun. The platform rises above the rest of the city like a throne for thought, or perhaps just a very efficient place to catch a breeze. You reach the top, and there it is, a broad rectangular pool carved into the center of a massive courtyard, framed by once painted columns and overlooked by the silhouettes of low buildings. This, my friend, is the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro. And if you're thinking, wait, is this it? The world's oldest luxury spa, then congratulations. You've just stumbled upon one of history's biggest flexes. Because while historians love to bicker over definitions, they still argue whether the Great Bath was purely ceremonial hygienic or maybe the world's earliest splash zone for the elite. One thing is clear, it's ancient. Roughly 4,600 years old, give or take a season or two. That's older than Cleopatra, older than the alphabet, older than your favorite conspiracy theory, and definitely older than the word spay. You approach the edge of the Great Bath and peer down into the waterless basin. It's empty now, of course, time has that effect, but you can still trace the waterproof bricks, marvel at the precision of its drainage system, and wonder at the care with which every single slab was aligned. Not one was placed by accident. This was built with purpose. You ease yourself down the stairs into the basin, slowly, reverently, as if you're entering the sacred belly of the city, which in a way you are. The bricks are smooth beneath your fingers. The lower you go, the more you feel it. This wasn't just about staying clean. This was about transformation. A slight breeze glides across the open top of the bath, and for a second you can almost hear it, the echo of splashing water laughter softened by steam, Someone humming an old tune passed down through who knows how many generations. You sit on one of the stone steps and pretend the water is still there. Go ahead, dip your hand into the imaginary pool. Feel the phantom warmth of sun-heated water lapping against your palm. Think of the hundreds, maybe thousands who have done the same, slipping into the cool tiled silence for reasons we'll never fully grasp. One theory says this place was used for purification rituals, maybe before a festival, maybe after a bad dream, or maybe just to rinse off the daily grind of hauling grain and mediating goat disputes, which, let's be honest, is still emotionally draining work. Another theory insists the bath was reserved for high-status folks. You know, the ancient version of VIP access. No wristbands, just knowing nods and maybe a subtle gold bangle or two. The kind of place where secrets were shared and alliances were sealed, all while up to your armpits in slightly chlorinated holiness. And then there's the fringe crowd, the did aliens build the bath crowd, who believe the layout matches celestial patterns or magnetic fields or something involving Atlantean ley lines. They don't get invited to many dinner parties, but you've got to admit their PowerPoint slides are mesmerizing. You stretch your legs out across the stone, your body still half loose from that divine massage earlier. A dove perches on the rim of the bath and tilts its head at you as if to say, "You get it now, don't you?" And maybe you do. Because even though this city has no surviving temples, no grand statues of gods, no pyramids or ziggurats to shout its importance, this bath tells you everything you need to know. These people believed in structure, in rhythm, in taking time to soak the dirt from your skin and maybe from your thoughts too. You lean back, hands braced behind you, and feel the sun's warmth radiate from the stone. The city beyond hums in low, drowsy tones, cooking fires, distant chimes, someone calling out for a missing goat again. The light has gone syrupy, the shadows stretching longer across the wide streets. Below the platform, someone begins to drum, a soft, lazy rhythm, more heartbeat than music. You close your eyes, sinking your breath to the thrum of it. And then, just as your brain is slipping into that delicious nap spiral, you hear footsteps. A girl appears at the edge of the bath. She can't be more than 12, dressed in a loose cotton shift dyed with faded patterns. She looks at you puzzled for half a second, then grins like you've just both stumbled into a secret. She kicks off her sandals and hops down a few steps into the basin, miming a splash with her foot. The ghost of water flicks through the air. You splash back. Why not? She giggles, does a little twirl, and then races back up the stairs, vanishing in the golden light like a firefly. You're alone again, but somehow not really. You rise slowly and climb out of the basin. Your joints creak. The sun has dipped even lower, brushing the tops of distant roofs with its last light. From here, the city spreads around you like a story told in low stone walls and whispered echoes. You wander down the steps again, this time slower, more reflective. Your body hums with stillness. Your mind, usually buzzing like an over-caffeinated honeybee, feels clear, not empty, just unburdened. And maybe that's what the bath was for all along. Not just to clean, but to let go. As you return to street level, you notice a row of bronze bowls being placed along a low ledge. An older man is lighting bits of resin inside them, and the scent, earthy, spicy, smoky, curls into the evening like a lullaby. The bowls glow with flickering orange light, marking the start of the city's nighttime rhythm. You follow them like breadcrumbs drawn toward whatever waits next in this dream of bricks and silence. You follow the trail of flickering bronze bowls, their flames now dancing in the early twilight, casting puddles of gold across the ground. The stones beneath your feet feel cooler now, storing up the heat of the day, but gently surrendering it as if even the pavement is exhaling. The city has shifted again, gone is the hum of labor replaced by the sigh of release. It's the spa equivalent of after hours, where people let down their hair and perhaps adjust their jewelry to slightly looser settings. You wind through a narrow corridor lined with rooms, small rectangular spaces with what might have once been woven mats, water jars, or shelves of smooth carved items whose uses are long lost. These rooms experts believe might have been the dressing rooms of the Great Bath Complex or spaces for private rituals or even a kind of early day spa suite. One thing is for sure, historians still argue whether they were part of a sacred precinct or more of a deluxe hygiene lounge. You lean against the lintel of one doorway peeking in. The air is musty with centuries, but your mind does the rest. Imagine someone inside sitting cross-legged, smearing perfumed oil on their arms, or rinsing tiny amulets in a basin while humming a tune older than the language you're hearing this in. Outside, the bowls of flame lead you toward a larger chamber square, open-roofed and sunk slightly into the ground. The walls are lined with ledges, and the floor holds what could be the ghost of a fire pit, or maybe just a gathering circle. It smells faintly of smoke and something vaguely spicy like old turmeric or dried bark. A man is crouched there, fanning a small pile of embers and tossing bits of dried herb into it. You don't recognize the ritual, but something about it feels familiar, like the part of a modern massage parlor where they clear the energy by waving eucalyptus around your head while Enya plays softly in the background. He looks up and gives a nod, not surprised by your presence, as if people drift through all the time, still lingering between their mud brick walls and their memories. You sit opposite him, and he places a smooth round stone in front of you, dark veined with white shaped like an egg. He points to it, then to your chest, and then closes his eyes. You're not quite sure what to do, so you copy him. Eyes shut. Breathe in. And you do, slowly. You take in the mingled scent of resin-baked brick and that sweet something that might just be fig leaves. Your shoulders soften. Your jaw lets go. Even your elbows feel less judgmental. A fact floats up from the depths of your spa-drenched brain. Mohenjo-daro had no obvious palace, no massive temples, no giant statues of gods looming over the city. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where leaders were essentially god interns with complexes carved in stone, this place whispers a different kind of balance. Their biggest public building, a bath, not a throne room, which leads to another lingering mystery: were they egalitarian or just subtle about their hierarchy? Some scholars think the city was managed by a priestly class. Others think it was an administrative dream team with a rotating roster of bureaucrats. Either way, nobody's found a tomb with King of Cleanliness engraved on it, so we'll probably never know. The man opposite you finishes his ritual, stands and disappears into one of the side corridors. The stone remains. You pick it up, it's heavier than it looks, warm from the fire, smooth like something that's been passed from hand to hand for generations. You tuck it into your pouch, even though you don't really have a pouch. But let's say you do, because that's how stories work. As you exit the chamber, the air feels cooler, the sky now bruising into that gorgeous in-between color where it's no longer day but not quite night. Overhead, a single star winks into view. You wonder if ancient bath-goers made wishes on it, or at least took it as a sign that maybe it was time to towel off and head home. Except you're not quite ready to leave. You veer into another lane quieter than the others and stumble upon a small stall, just a shelf and a woven cloth roof. On it sit rows of clay pots, polished shells, and little bundles wrapped in leaf. A young man is reclining nearby, clearly on closing shift, but he perks up when he sees you and beckons. He offers you one of the bundles. You unwrap it and find inside a tiny cube of something sticky and golden brown. You raise an eyebrow. He mimics popping it in his mouth and smiling. A spa snack, perhaps. You try it. It's sweet but not sugary, earthy, with a whisper of cardamom or clove or something else you'd normally only taste in an overpriced tea shop with three vowels missing from its name. You smile. He winks. It's probably date honey and dried fig mixed with crushed nut. A little pick-me-up between soak and sleep. Behind the stall, a soft chant starts low and rhythmic. A small group has gathered in a courtyard ahead, seated in a semicircle around someone playing a long flute-like instrument. The notes are gentle, like they're tiptoeing through the dusk, afraid to wake the moon. You drift toward them and settle in at the back. The sound wraps around you like a warm towel, and you let it. Eyes half-lidded, breath slow, no rush, no emails, no goats this time. And right about now, you're wondering how any of this got forgotten. How a whole civilization with plumbing and pastries and spa-core rituals just disappeared. But they did. Whether by flood or drought or the slow crawl of trade decline, historians still debate whether it was climate conquest or simply entropy that brought Mohenjo-Daro to a close. But tonight, none of that matters. Tonight, the bath still holds warmth, the songs still echo, and the sweet taste of fig honey still lingers on your tongue.